Boots on solid ground, that's what I like.
Can't argue with you there, big man.
Stay focused.
While the irony of being in an artificial installation doesn't escape the Spartans, they are relieved to not be on board the ship anymore. Spartans don't like to be in space. Here, they have less control of a battle. On solid ground, however, they are nigh unstoppable. But in orbit, they can be blown out of space at any moment. The Spartans all head through Installation 00 as they make their way to a large citadel in the distance, while June keeps an eye on them from above, and the UNSC Roses of Winter does a wide recon of Installation 00 in low orbit. They begin to talk.
Now would be a good time to ask him about his teacher.
Why don't you just tell me?
You know why.
It's been good to fight side by side with you again, John.
Don't y'all start to get native. We have a job to do.
Do you ever mind your own business?
Emil shrugs and turns to look at Master Chief.
Kat says you know your way around a gun better than anyone she's ever seen.
I do all right.
She must have had her eyes closed all these years then.
Emil pumps a shell into his shotgun as the conversation dies down for a moment. Master Chief looks back at George for a second and asks,
How long have you been a part of Noble?
A while now? I'm sorry I could not tell you.
Do you know who trained them?
Classified, but I have a feeling I know who.
I watched Six's combat style. I think it was him.
George looks up reflexively. Although George is one of the tallest humans to have ever lived, even he had to look up at Kurt, the tallest of the Spartan-II program.
If you want to know, just ask. Who trained your class? It had to have been a Spartan.
Lieutenant Commander Ambrose. Kurt Ambrose.
It's good to hear that he's still alive at least.
Was, now that Onyx is gone.
Just as George is about to reply, Miranda cuts them off over the comms.
Dear God, I've got thousands of slipspace signatures. All ground teams, you're on your own for now. You have your orders. The Roses of Winter will stay low and in the shadows as long as we can. Disable the rings. Do not let the Covenant control this power. Miranda, out.
Mere seconds after the communications cut out, Chief's team as well as Carter's all look up to see the largest Covenant armada ever assembled, as thousands of ships arrive to the Ark. With only seconds to spare, June and Johnson's Falcon lands, trying to warrant as little attention as possible. But it's too little, too late, as tens of thousands of phantoms and spirits land on the Ark all over the place, ultimately alerting the Covenant that there is a UNSC presence already on the installation. As troops begin to land between them and the Citadel, Master Chief diverts his team into a snowy tundra, where they encounter a battalion of Jiralhani in a sort of ritual, drinking blood from a human skull. This being that of one of the Marines of the smaller task forces that landed on the area. The mission begins from George's point of view, as Chief gives him a signal. George jumps over some rocks and blasts his way through with a machine gun. Since the brutes are being caught unprepared, this part is relatively easy. From a gameplay perspective, it's just a bunch of brutes running at the Spartans. But since this is the standing for Halo 3, these brutes have a lot of HP, even without shields. It is up to the Chief and Emil to bob and weave out of the way of charging brutes. And although George is melting through them with his machine gun, the sheer number of brutes is too many. Thus, Chief and Emil have to protect them, or you, as the player, have to make sure to survive several waves of brutes coming from any and every direction over the hills. After defeating all the local Jiralhani, the Spartans collect the dog tags of the dead Marines, just in time to hear a "Mayday! Mayday! We're going down! We're going down!" They look up and in the distance see a glimpse of a falcon on fire. Typically, this would be impossible to see from so far away, but the Spartans' enhanced vision means they can make out the details of a chase between several banshees and phantoms on a singular falcon. Though this is not a singular case, and there was several fire teams that landed on the ring, meaning there is pelicans and falcons that didn't have time to make it back to the Roses of Winter in time to hide from the Covenant all over the place. Master Chief wants to prioritize saving as many UNSC forces as possible, but Emil and George talk him out of it. Usually George would be the first to sacrifice his life for any Marine, but this mission is too important, and with the sheer number of Covenant forces on the Ark, they can't be sure any humans will survive. Their best bet is on a Spartan and Johnson surviving. They begin to make their way in the direction of the crashed Falcon, and when they run into a large horde of buggers, the creatures are swarming them. Gameplay wise, it's more difficult than the last fight. while playing as George would be the optimal choice for this machine gun turret of his. This time, it's from Emil's perspective. As he has a limited supply of grenade launcher shells, you have to actively work on bringing down clusters of the flying creatures with a grenade launcher. Luckily, one of the armor abilities specific to Emil would be his ability to wield his knife ferociously, up to but not limited to throwing it a short distance. Though the fight against the buggers slows them down, they will continue to press forward to June's Pelican. In the meantime, Carter's Noble team has also come in contact with the Covenant. While they had a lot of success to begin with, between Carter, Cat, and Six, with Cat hacking several comm signatures to avoid the Covenant alerting the rest about their position, and Six being a natural-born assassin, the odds are simply stacked against them. On their way to what would be the installation's cartographer, they had managed to kill a small army of enemies without being detected. But as Cat goes to insert her knife into the back of a brute's skull, a grunt cowering in a corner had spotted her. Without any reason to think there would be a grunt hiding in that direction, she had left herself wide open in plain sight. The grunt manages to alert the brute just enough for the brute to scream out right before being put to the knife. Though he is not fast nor skilled enough to avoid death from a Spartan, the roar alerts a small army of Covenant forces guarding the entrance to the cartographer. The Covenant forces have overwhelming numbers. This is the Ark and the Covenant's ultimate goal after all, with a battle that even the skill and prowess of Noble Six can't beat. The odds seem stacked furthermore against them, as elites and brutes are working together in the battlefield. Wave after wave of grunts launching plasma grenades at the Spartans in a staggering amount. The sky momentarily glows a deep blue with trails of plasma, followed by jackals forming a phalanx wall of energy shields to stop the advancing Spartans. While Cat takes a page from their book with her shield, the attacks are still coming from every which way. Noble Six is doing his best to take out as many Covenant fighters as possible, but Carter and Cat are struggling to stay alive as is. Before they can make it to the cartographer, Carter tells Six,
"Leave us behind. Do what you do best. Get in there. Retrieve the data on this installation and get it to Noble Beta."
Six nods and holsters his DMR on his back. He takes out 2 pistols on each side of his thighs and launches himself into a deep sprint, catching all the Covenant off guard, making every shot count. He shoots the cowering jackals in their hands, removing their fingers and entire wrists in some cases, just enough to clear a path forward through the front line. But even so, there is still some jackals and grunts in his way. He runs past several grunts, only slowing down enough to punch them directly in the face, breaking several methane masks. But Six keeps running forward. As he approaches a jackal holding an orange shield, he shoots out the Kigyar's knee. The alien bends down, giving Six enough opportunity to quickly run up the shield and jump over, somersaulting over 2 elites behind the jackal, while throwing a grenade directly between them. Six does not slow down, as he is now in the middle of the enemy's forces. When the grenade goes off, he simply looks back and quickly shoots the elites whose shields popped. Virgil interrupts him. 3 brutes ahead. Left one has a 12% delayed reaction compared to the other 2, and the one in the front was limping from his right foot. Using this information, Noble Six shoots through the front brute approaching on his left leg, removing most of the brute's balance. As he kneels, Six runs up to him, grabs his neck in a chokehold, and in one swift movement uses it as a pole to swing around his full weight into another brute on the right. Knowing the left one would react slower, immediately snapping the front brute's neck and caving in the second one's chest with a kick from a full weight of Six's Mjolnir at 20 miles an hour. Six's momentum carries him just enough to land in front of the delayed brute, but he uses this to keep his vector forward, rolling right past the swing of the brute's brute shot blade. Once behind the brute, he explodes the simian's knees from behind with a well-placed shot, and Six keeps running forward, using the Covenant as his own cover. While he is getting shot at, and some shots are hitting him, the rest are being evaded, and he is causing a lot of friendly fire. Enough for Carter and Cat to take advantage of and move positions to stay a small step ahead of the Covenant. As a brute runs up to Six with a hammer, he expertly dodges and brings the brute to a striking distance of a hunter pair coming at him. The brute mistakenly strikes the hunter directly into an exposed node of worms, and it enrages the second hunter, now in a fight against one another. While more Covenant join this pointless brawl, Six uses the confusion and chaos to get up out into the balcony leading to the cartographer. While Six is inside, Carter and Kat continue to push forward to give Six more time and backup, but they're just not on his level, as Six clears out several dozens of enemies and they make it inside the cartographer room. A new phantom of enemies gets dropped behind them. Six immediately runs up to where the phantom is, about to land troops, and starts taking care of them before they can even touch the ground, knocking down several brutes and elites on their way down, while he uses the phantom's grab lift to head into it and hijack it. This is their escape plan, but it proves to be near fatal, as Carter and Kat are ever more surrounded by enemies. They struggle to stay on their feet from all the incoming fire, until they are overwhelmed. A plasma grenade lands directly in front of Carter and blows up as he tries to jump away, but without enough time, all that is seen is a flash of blue light, followed by a spray of red blood and a chunk of Mjolnir armor. Carter begins to scream and grunt in pain while using one arm to clutch at what was his leg, but is only a stump of blood now. He continues to shoot with his other arm, steadily holding a DMR. As soon as Kat sees him, she runs to Carter to try and help him, but when she gets her hands on him to pull him into cover, an elite charges her, trying to cut her head off. Though she manages to barely dodge a strike to the head, she is struck with an overloaded straight plasma shot that disables her robotic arm. The unexpected and sudden weight of her arm drags her down, just enough for the major glowing elite to strike her. This time, he doesn't miss. He slices right through a third of her working arm, now armless, one profusely bleeding and another disabled. She tries to fight off the elite, but is beaten to it as a brute shoves the elite to the side. This was the same brute that started the fight with the hunters outside, now stripped of all armor and injured. Kat is slightly relieved as the foe sprinting at her is dumber and she manages to feint a counterattack, just enough for the brute to tackle her down, but running his face directly into her knee. The brute is killed on impact, but manages to pin her under his weight. Without the use of her arms, she struggles too long to get out from underneath the brute, when the elite that sliced up her arm comes back around to grab and pull on her wounded arm, enough to rip her arm right out of its socket, armor and all. Kat is laying there screaming in pain, all while Carter is bleeding out, but he manages to angle his way to shoot at the elite as he gets up close to Kat's face, about to insert his sword through her chest. He sees his reflection on Kat's helmet, taunting her, as the DMR won't kill him or pop his shields in time. Six comes out of the Phantom after killing the entire crew and leaving Virgil inside to pilot and help provide covering fire. With Six and Carter's DMRs, the elite's shields are destroyed just in time for Kat's arm to reboot, as she uses the shield's edges to slice off the elite's head right off its shoulders. Noble Six removes a copy disc from the console and runs up to Carter to drag him into the grav lift beam of the Phantom, while Kat tries to cover up her wound and reach for her arm, but it's under the weight of both the brute and elite, so she leaves it behind and provides cover with her shield. The three of them manage to make it into the Phantom while Virgil takes them away, wounded and battered, but alive, though losing blood quickly. Carter tells them that was foolish. If they left him behind, he could have provided more covering fire for them to retreat. Six repeats Carter's words back at him from when they met.
That lone wolf stuff stays behind.
He grabs a plasma pistol from one of the dead drivers of the Phantom, charges it slightly, and burns the oozing stump of Carter's left leg. Carter passes out, and he gets placed in a corner of the Phantom. Kat looks at her stump where her arm used to be. She sees all the bleeding, turns to look at Noble Six, and says,
Damn it, my turn, eh?
Alright, Reclaimers, let me know what you guys think about the voice. Do you prefer when I use AI voice for myself, or would you like me to continue doing it like I did in this video? I hope there was enough action in this one, and next one there will also be some action. I'm done with finals currently, so that means more recording and a few more videos in the next few days. That is until I pick up more shifts at work. Anyways, I'll be making a few comedy shorts in the next few days. I hope you guys watch them, hope you enjoyed this, and next part will be up either tomorrow or Wednesday. Have a great night, Reclaimers.
Not subscribing would be a huge mistake, Reclaimer.